Hey folks, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. My name is Bill, this is my shop. We're building an LBSC Tich locomotive, a little 3.5 inch gauge locomotive. And this episode is going to be focused on the smoke box, building the locking handles, the dart, and the inside assembly. So it was fun. It really interesting work, and because for American locomotives don't have these same kind of smoke box locks on them. My Allen Mogul just has bolts that hold it in place. So this was cool, and I'll show you, if you stay tuned for the next 15-20 minutes, I'll show you how I made this, or at least the locking parts, and hope you enjoy it. Thanks everybody. Next, to start on the crossbars and brackets for the smoke box. Don't have any 3/32 inch thick steel bars, so I'm going to cut a short piece that I measured, and the correct width is 2 5/8. So I'm just going to cut this off at that dimension in the bandsaw, then put it in the mill. This is a 1/2 inch wide piece. Put it in the mill and just mill off a few thou down to 3/32, and then I can cut it in the bandsaw, leaving it a little bit large for the 3/16 inch widths, and then mill them to size and drill the holes. Pretty simple, easy peasy. Here I've milled off the little bit, got it down to from a 1/8 inch thick steel to 3/32 inch, and left it together so that I can now take it out of the vise, deburr it, and mark it to cut into pieces to the 3/16 inch strips. What I'll do is cut those a little wide, tip them up on edge inside the vise here, and then mill them flat. Once again, I'm really pleased that I built the pillar drill, the universal pillar tool, and I've got I don't know if you can even see the little tiny holes there. So I used some brass rod and tube to chalk up the part there, because you got to have something to support it, and a vise here. See, there we go, you can see the holes. So thank you for the pillar drill. Here I am bending the tabs that will hold the little bars inside the smoke box. Here's one that I haven't bent yet, but you can see I've made a line on it for the first bend just above the hole, and then another line 3/16 of an inch beyond. And I wanted to show what I'm using here. The first bend is easy, you just clamp it in there and bang it over with a ball peen hammer. And the second bend, you put it at this mark, and the second mark, of course, checking the distance to make sure it fits with the crossbars. Here we go. So I double checked that, and then I bent it. What I started, I used these punches that I got from Harbor Freight years ago when I was into cars. I started with a little 1/4 inch one. I was able to sneak behind and get the bend started, and then I finished it up. Sorry, that was a 3/16 inch one, because that's this amount of the offset, and then I used a 1/4 inch one and banged on it straight to get the nice flat bottom there. Hope that makes sense. Set up for the second one, I've got it right on the first line just above the hole. Check and make sure it's square, and then easy peasy, the vise is tight. I can just start tapping it over nice and flat here. Now we'll reverse it and do the other angle. I'm not sure if this will show up or not, but I've got the part reversed. I checked to make sure I've got it vertical, and this is what I'm trying to show you here. Because the space underneath is 3/16 of an inch, and I've got it nice and tight, I'm going to start my bend with a 3/16 inch. Make sure I get that. I'm just keeping on going until I've got it almost vertical. There we go. Now I can switch over, use the 1/4 inch one. Nice flat on there. Just give it a few taps just to kind of take out any kinks or wrinkles. Let's see how well we did. I hope this is showing up. Yeah, looking good. You can see the hole that'll mount into the back side of the ring, and this ledge that's made there that just fit the bars. It's looking good. So here's the other one. Not much to it. Hope this video makes sense. You should see the ridiculous mounting of the camera on top of the nearby bandsaw table. But there's the two parts. And the plans for the front bars call for them to be held together with 1/16 inch iron rivets, which in the United States in this day and age, I don't know where you'd get them, but what I decided to do was to take a piece of steel 3/16 inch material, same thing that I made these little spacers from, and then turn it down to 1/16 of an inch, and I was just test fitting it on there. As you could see, I left a little bit of margin there that I can peen over, and I figured since it's steel and all the rest of this stuff is steel too, if my peening is not adequate, then what I could do is shoot it with a couple of shots of the spot welder. So the only thing I need to do now is undercut it here to all the way to the base, and then cut this thing off and make another. Here's the crossbar with the 1/16 inch steel pins that we made in the previous segment. And I didn't round the tops of it. I didn't figure that was terribly important. But as you can see, there's only a little bit that sticks through. So I'm not going to film this, but what I'm going to do is gently tap those parts into peen them over the little pins that stick up. It's really tempting to grab the big ball peen hammer and just slam against that, but I think it would just bend it over. So I'm going to gently tap, tap, tap. And if they go mushroom like they should, then that'll be fine. If they don't, I might try heating them up a little bit like you heat up a rivet, but we'll see. Well, that worked out pretty well. Now I kind of wish I had rounded the tops of those things, but oh well, it's just decoration, and it's not something that people are going to see sitting inside the smoke box door. But there's the bar. I didn't need to heat this thing at all. I just tapped it. You can see I've got this old piece of railroad track that I've been using for an anvil for probably 20 years. I just set it on there and tapped it very gently with the ball peen hammer to get it going. And I tapped it with the flat part first, and then used the ball peen to kind of peen over the ends. And it's solid as a rock now. So very happy with that. Progress on the dart for the smoke box. Now that the bars are done there. The dart is as simple. I'm making the two-piece version, and you got a piece of 1/8 inch steel there. I turned it down and threaded it to, let me get the focus better for you, threaded it to 3/48 on the end for the locking nut, and then I filed this flat to a 3/32 of an inch. So just did it with hand files and used a little square block. Made it easy to just keep the file parallel there. And for the other part of the dart, I've taken a piece of 1/8 inch steel, flattened it, and I went in 1/8 of an inch, drilled a 1/16 inch hole, a 1/4 inch deep, and that's done now, so I can take it out, cut it off, and shape it to the little round part. I just finished filing the little square hole for the handle, and use the usual assortment of little Swiss needle files and stuff. I think I got these at Harbor Freight, but really pleased that that part is done. It's a little bit tedious, especially holding on to that. I don't know if I've showed this before, but this is a Palmgren vise. It's kind of the modern version of the baby bullet. What's cool about it is this clamps on. Harbor Freight sells an inexpensive version of this as well, but I think I got this from MSC. And the price is not terrible, and it is a very practical small vise. It's very handy to have this for cutting small things and filing things. You can see I've got good lighting over here. Let me catch you up on where we are with the little project for the dart and the smoke box accessories. I had made these two pieces, the little locking lug and the screwed locking part. And I made these two handles last night, excuse me, out of 3/32 inch stainless. I just filed them, put a little shape on them. It's kind of hard to see because the finish isn't good, but my plan is I've got to buff them with a Dremel anyway once I get them silver soldered in place. But as you can see, they're screwed with a 1x72 thread. I'll show you the little box. Here's the taps that I'm going to use. So 172, just turn the 3/32 inch piece down to like 73 thou, and then threaded the portion. I threaded them a little bit long just to be on the safe side. That way I'll drill and tap the two parts here, and I can screw them in and then silver solder them in place, and then I'll buff the whole thing. The other thing that's important is my smoke box front has a long snout on it, and it occurred to me that the dimensions for the dart, the shaft of the dart, it obviously depends a lot on the length of distance of the snout on your smoke box. So what I did was I clamped the little bars, the crossbars in place, and I put the dart rod in, put the end on it. There we go. This will get silver soldered as well. But then I checked the measurement, and because you want the squared portion to come all the way to the edge there, and then as you can see, I don't know if you can tell this, but I had to increase the square to lengthen it, and so it's quite a bit longer than it originally was. And I blued and marked here where I'm going to increase the amount that's threaded. So this part gets threaded 3/48. So I'm going to turn the rest of this blued portion down to 99 thou, and then thread at 3/48. So important to think about how big the shaft is, the snout on your smoke box cover. Okay, after some adjustment, I can show you. This is what I was wanting to correct. Here's the square center part, and this is the locking nut that will go on it. And what I wanted to make sure there's no slop here, so I turned an additional portion of this threaded part here and just threaded at 3/48. So that's what it looks like now. And can you see I cleaned up my lathe? I do that from time to time. Just showing the setup. It's hard to even see the thing, but I drilled and tapped the 172 in the little tiny handle socket there. Here's the stuff I used. Use a little end mill to flatten it, then a center drill, and the number 53 drill to make my tapping hole. And the last thing I need to do before I can silver solder these parts, you can see how long the threaded portion sticks out into the squared cut. It sticks out just a little ways into the round one. So got to cut those off, because that's the last thing I want to do is have any interference. I know I'm going to have to file it clean on the square on the inside when that's silver soldered, and I'll have to run the tap through this one again as well, the 3/48, but I'll make it easy on myself and trim those first and then clean them and silver solder them. Getting exciting now. I think it's always exciting when you get to the end of the stage of one of these small projects, little sub-assemblies. Anyway, I got the bars clamped in there pretty much parallel to the opening. Not that they have to be precise, it just seems like good practice. So I think using that clamp is very helpful too. So here's the dart inserted, of course, with no fasteners on the back of it. And the next step is to lay in one of the brackets here. And I'm going to need to modify the bracket a little bit to account for the curvature inside here. So I'm going to just belt sand that down until we get a nice snug fit. Then my plan is to crazy glue one in on that spot, drill it, tap it, secure it, and then once that is done, then flip it around, do the other side. Alright, very happy about that. Got both of the little ledges, brackets installed. One thing I did have to do was just slightly shorten and round the edges of the bar there, because they were so large when I first made them, you could not get it out. So I'll demonstrate this in a minute when I put it all together, but I wanted to point that out. anybody that's making one of these, smart idea to round them and make sure that, you know, pre-flight it, make sure you can get the bar out, especially because this will all be sitting in the front of the locomotive. You'll be pulling it out from the other side. And I'd be remiss if I didn't do another homage to the universal pillar tool. Highly complex setup here with a block of wood. That's what I used for drilling the smoke box, the front of the smoke box, but also used the tapping setup there a few minutes ago. I just love this thing. If you get a chance to make one, make one. I got my castings from a supplier in the United States. Very good guy. Really appreciate that. And of course I paid for them. They didn't sponsor me or anything. But it was a very fun project. If you're interested in this at all, check out my build series of this on my YouTube playlist. And here, before we wrap up, here is the smoke box door installed. And I did, if you sharp-eyed viewers will note, I did have to modify my little knob here. I shortened it by about 75 thou, and then I put this notch in it so that I can actually unscrew it and lift it off. But still, I think that looks alright. What I might do is use Fred's trick of making things disappear. I might paint that top rim black eventually. So anyway, really pleased how this came out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Alright, I'll make this the last segment for this week's episode. Here's the finished product. I'm really happy with how it came out. This was kind of a fun combination of a lot of things. Not a lot of super detailed, accurate work except for on the handles there. A little bit of blacksmithing and general metalworking stuff. But really pleased with how it came out. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great week. Thanks again for all the new subscribers. Pleased to have you aboard. And please pass the word if you would. I am trying to grow the channel. Love to have everybody's contributions and comments. And just if you have any questions, please ask, and I'll do my best to answer. If you have any comments, please say. And if you don't feel like making a comment, but you want to let me know you're watching, please just give me a thumbs up. It is encouraging to see those thumbs up, and I'll keep you posted as we move along. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.